We're back. We took a couple weeks off. We were refocusing, rejigging some things. We wanted to bring a solid product to everybody, and we felt like the stuff we were putting out wasn't the best that we could be, if we're just being totally honest. So we took some time, evaluated where we were at, and we're back. The show is going to be 10 times better than it was, and we're just going to start coming at you with some new things too. We kind of got a couple side projects we're thinking about doing, but the main show is back right now. But keep an eye out for some new things. And I know we got a couple of wrestling fans that listen to this, and we might have something up our sleeve for you guys pretty soon. So let's start the show with something a little fun, which at the time it wasn't fun. A year and a day ago today, the Leafs lost a game to the Carolina Hurricanes 6-3. And that's something that's normal. The Leafs, they lose games once in a while. What wasn't normal about this game is the winning goaltender on record was a Zamboni driver that works for the team. Now, I'm sure we all remember that game. It's something that we don't really want to look back on. It is the most embarrassing loss in Maple Leafs history. Where were you guys when that happened, and what was your reaction to that? Matt, start us off.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think I was just watching like everyone else, and I actually remember a lot of plays from that game because I think Mrazek went out, the last goalie, before Ayres came in, and Clifford just destroyed him.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was Kyle Clifford, which is a funny name to say, was beaming down.
Kyle Clifford was on the Leafs.
Yeah, I know. I think that's hilarious to look at. So Clifford wrecked Mrazek, and then David Ayres came in. And I think, Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Tavares and Engel scored pretty quick, like in like 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We got 2 quick ones. I'm like, yo, like, we're going to win like 10, like by like 10 goals. Cause like it was bad to start and you kind of saw them get momentum. And then like, I remember going into the third intermission, I was just like, oh shit. Like, cause you actually could tell that they were probably going to lose.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I'm still kind of pissed. I'm surprised. Like, I feel like people don't really talk about that as much as they should. Like, I know he did like a lot of media and stuff after, but like, in terms of how embarrassing that was for, the Leafs hockey players, it was pretty bad. But I don't think about that day too much often, but I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, for me, I'll go and I'll say that's not necessarily a lead into anything, but to touch on the media side, like, first of all, they had to bring it up that it was a thing that happened a year ago today. So it's probably gonna get brought up again next year and then the year after. But apparently there was like not just one, maybe not even two, but more than two television producing companies, movie producing companies that want to produce a movie or a documentary on the David Ayres story. And I'm not sure exactly what the story would include as much as the idea of the result where he got. But I know he's been through some hardships before, and I follow his wife, or I think on Twitter for some reason, because he doesn't have Twitter. So everything that goes out is through her. But in terms of where I was, I was on my couch. I was hoping that the Leafs would score something from like center ice because it was just pucks on net. You could see Matthews was spinning and shooting. It wasn't really his best game too. You could tell the message was pucks on net. They kind of lost focus eventually after they realized it wasn't just like an average house leaguer. So, I mean, he's not the greatest, but he stopped some pucks and it made a day out of history. And even Steve Dangle kind of embarrassed himself for the furtherment of Toronto Maple Leafs fans. I know Josh wasn't too happy about that.
No, I wasn't. Like, Steve's gonna be Steve, right? Like, everything he does, he's got a special and no hate to Steve Dangle. I love what he does. He's one of my inspirations, like, going into the hockey world. But I just found that video a little outside his comfort zone. We'll say
the
that.
Other day, if you're unfamiliar, Steve Dangle tries to go one-on-one with David Ayres to like retribution for Leafs fans, and it didn't turn out that well at all. So
wait, I missed this.
Dangle.
What happened? What video? Like, what?
He
literally just came out. It's Steve Dangle, David Ayres, Josh Hugo.
Yeah, they did it on Jeff Merrick's ring. So Steve took 10 shootout shots on David Ayres, and
brutal shootout shots. I mean, brutal. Like
they did some more videos. So they I think one's coming out today where he was the goalie and Ayres was shooting. Like that one, that'll be a good one.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was you guys know I'm a big sports gambler. I like betting on games, and I was watching the game, and I see like you said, Mrazek go down. I'm like, oh, the emergency backup goalie's coming in. I'm hammering the Leafs to come back right now. So I log on to the site and I got my bet in before they could update the odds. So I had the Leafs to win at like 14-1 because at that point they were down by 3. So I was like, oh, sweet. So I think I threw $100 on it. I could have got 1,400 back, and it just didn't pan out. It was one of the weirdest situations ever. So that's where I was for that. Just always fun to look back on stuff like that. And of note, people say, that nothing really came out of that game for the Leafs, but what actually happened that the next day, Zach Bogosian was supposed to have a meeting with Kyle Dubas because at that time he had been bought out by Buffalo and was a free agent. And Dubas actually canceled that meeting 12 hours before, after the loss to the Zamboni driver, because they wanted the team to go in a different direction, and they felt bringing in Bogosian at that time wasn't the best move. And we all know what happened with Bogosian. He went on to sign with the Tampa Bay Lightning and win his Stanley Cup, and then ended up in Toronto anyway. So it's just kind of funny how things work out like that, eh?
Yeah, good story.
Well, speaking of Bogosian, he was on the ice last night. Why don't you catch us up on the Leafs now?
Yeah, the Leafs lose 3-0 to the Calgary Flames in kind of an uneventful game. Like not too much happened last night. Like, Matt Tkachuk wasn't that involved. First off, the Leafs were missing Thornton, Muzzin. Who else were they missing? You're still missing Simmons. Anderson was out. Hyman's out. Robertson's not quite back yet. I know he's in the AHL, but he should be coming up soon. So they're missing some heavy hitters. And Michael Hutchinson started. So you're always in for a wild ride when that happens. Dave Rittich started for the Calgary Flames. It was the battle of the backups. And to me, it just looked like the Leafs couldn't get anything going last night. The power play looked sloppy. They had a 5-on-3 where I think they generated one post off of a Matthews one-timer. And they just didn't seem to be clicking. And looking at I just read the practice quotes from Kristen Shilton. She was kind of saying, the message I got from the quotes was that the team, they definitely miss Thornton and Simmons when they're not on the bench because they're always talking, trying to get the boys going. And it was Mitch Marner that said, yeah, someone's got to step up and just kind of take on that role, that leadership role. And my question to that is, I guess we can kind of transition into this, is, well, you have a leader on the team. It's John Tavares.
I'll go first.
So yeah. Why do you need someone else to step up when Johnny Toronto's over there sitting with the C on his jersey?
Yeah, I'll touch on Tavares, but I just think in general, like, I kind of feel like a narrative for the Leafs season is whenever like a key player's out, maybe not like a superstar, but like a Thornton or a Simmons or a Muzzin, because I saw Muzzin quotes this morning that's kind of bring energy. Like, I feel like our players use that as a scapegoat to not do what they're supposed to do. Like, I just feel like I always hear in the maybe it's media and it's not their quotes, but it's always like they didn't have Thornton, they didn't have Simmons. I'm like, no offense, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, if you're missing those players and you're not a good team or you can't get it going, then like that's a problem. Because no offense to those guys, but like it's 1 year, 700,000. Simmons is 1 year, 1.5 million. So I agree with you, Josh. I think it's more the big dogs need to step up, like maybe get some pushing and shoving. But I know we're probably going to talk about Tavares and Nylander because they've taken most of the slander. But I don't know, man. I just think it's so stupid when people always point to like small guys like that are out of the lineup and like we have a leader. It's like, okay, like you guys have been playing professional sports for a minute now. Like, I don't think you need Joe Thornton to like perk up your day. Like maybe because no fans, but like I'm contradicting myself. But I just think personally, it shouldn't matter who's in or out of the lineup. You need to step up and get the job done, or at least compete harder, I would say.
Yeah, I see it from both sides though, right? Because a guy can definitely bring a huge step to your lineup for sure. Like, we definitely saw a step up in the Leafs game when Thornton returned from the rib injury, right? You just saw the guys, they were so happy for him and all that. But if you're missing, how old is he? 41? If you're missing a 41-year-old Joe Thornton, that shouldn't affect your physical game that much, right? Yeah. I mean, and that first line last night was loaded. It was Tavares moved to the wing, centered by Matthews and winged by Marner. And
it got split up though after the second, like just right away. I remember looking at the second period in like middle of the game, and I'm like, okay, well that's Marner and that's like Nylander and that's Mikheyev. I'm like, that's not the first line I saw. So I kind of upset that didn't get stuck out with, I guess, too.
They just couldn't get anything going. You always get one weird game, right? And like, I'm honestly, they lose 3-0 to Calgary. Calgary is a decent team when they show up and play. They haven't been the same since the last time they played the Leafs and Muzzin flipped that puck at Tkachuk. But I'm not too upset by last night's loss. There were a lot of, I guess you could call them built-in excuses. Hutch is your goalie. That first one was a soft one.
Couple of crappy calls.
Yeah, the reffing wasn't the best, but we can't always expect that. But I'm not too concerned with that loss. You still got a 5-point buffer on the league and a 7-point buffer on your division. So you're not gonna go on several 7-game winning streaks in the season. I think the most important thing you can take away from this is how they rebound tomorrow night against Calgary again. And Anderson wasn't at practice today, and he's still day today. So you might be stuck with Hutch tomorrow again, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think this kind of speaks to the big picture. Like, sorry, we've been off for a little while, so we haven't really talked about this, but like, do you guys feel like Nylander and Tavares haven't really been playing good, or do you kind of not notice them as much? Because like, I know a lot of articles are written about Nylander. That video went out of him just kind of hitting a guy with a stick check. Tavares, like, I don't want to say he's not in his prime anymore, but you can certainly tell he's going down. Like, that first year was probably his best year of his career. And then last year, injuries, and this year, he's kind of inconsistent play. So when I look at the big picture personally, I think Tavares and Nylander do need to split up. And I don't want to have a hot take this early on in the pod, but I think I have to. I just think as good as Matthews and Marner are together, them playing together, it's so hard to get other things going offensively on other lines. Because I just think it's your two best forwards together. They're forced to play 23, 24 minutes a night, which is kind of hard to sustain. And then no offense to Tavares and Nylander, but they can't get things going together. They don't have chemistry. So my solution, because I know people always talk about problems, but I would put Tavares and Nylander back on the first power play with Matthews and Marner, just so they get touches, they get the puck going, and maybe they get some easy goals with those two guys out there. But I just think if we want to go where we need to go, we need secondary scoring. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you bring up splitting up your two big dogs, but then you take a look at Boston, and I know they're not doing it right now. But majority of the time, all three of their top stars have been there. They've ran with Marchand, Pastrnak, Bergeron, and it works. Edmonton runs McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, but Edmonton doesn't work. Edmonton's bad. Like, just talking about Boston.
Well, we're going to talk about Edmonton later.
Yeah, we're talking about Edmonton coming up. But just go on Boston.
In their last 10.
I think Boston was actually a really good point that you said. But when I look at Boston, they have David Krejci, they have DeBrusk, and I think their role as forwards, their third line, their fourth line, isn't to score. It's going to be very neutral. They're going to create body checks, and they can win games 2-1. The way the Leafs kind of play, I kind of find it hard to believe that if Matthews and Marner aren't going, we're going to win 2-1. Like, that usually only happens if Anderson stands in his head, and we can't really rely on that and where he is in his career. So maybe not, like I said, maybe not break them up, but I do think you have to find better ways getting Tavares and Nylander back in the mix on the power play and 5-on-5.
I think it's finding them a new winger, because the way I look at it, and Brandon, I know you probably have something to say on this, but John Tavares' game style, he's not fast.
Yeah,
he doesn't have. I don't think he has the best hands. I don't think he does, but he's a workhorse. He can get the puck to somebody, and when he's given the puck, he can shoot quickly and score. We saw it in his first season here. He netted 47 goals. That's a great season. And then you got Nylander, who, when he shows up, he's great. When he doesn't show up, it's noticeable that he didn't show up. And I've seen excuses for Nylander. Like, people are saying, oh, he's just lazy on the ice. And then you see his defenders saying, well, he does things so effortlessly that it makes him look lazy, which I don't buy that. If you're working hard, people are going to be able to tell that you're working hard. So I think those two need to figure it out together. Maybe give it like 5 more games, and then maybe you have to split them up for a couple games just to get them going again. And I would put Nylander with Matthews and then Marner with Tavares, because that's what they were doing before. And it was.
So you would split up Matthews Marner, Josh?
I'd give it 5 more games, because you have a buffer. Okay. You have time.
So
right?
you'd wait a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of players go on dry spells. It happens all the time. I just think.
But like, it's not like they're hitting a bunch of posts. Like, I think they're standing out noticeably as ineffective. I don't want to say bad, because I feel like that's not really giving it context. But I think Nylander and Tavares look ineffective. They I just feel like as soon as they have the puck, guys are on them too quick. Like, they're not really doing a good job of creating time and space for them. And I do understand what you're kind of saying, because like, when you look at the Leafs, like, all healthy, we do have down the middle Matthews, Tavares, and our third line center kind of switches. But on the right wing, we have Marner, Nylander, Simmons. So we're kind of stacked in the center and the right wing. But our left side's terrible. Like, we have Thornton, Hyman, who switches to right side a lot lately. Yeah, Thornton, Hyman, and they try Vesey, we'll see what Galchenyuk can do. So I think, like, another hot take, I think this is pointing towards a big addition at the trade deadline. Like, we hear rumblings out in Nashville. Taylor Hall will be available, which would be hilarious if we ended up on the Leafs. But yeah, we don't have to get into that. But just kind of saying, Brandon, what do you think they should do just to get Nylander and Tavares going?
Geez, I don't know. I keep on giving some hard times to Nylander, to Josh over our texts. I know he is not a huge fan of it. He stuck up for Nylander after the first or second game. I remember that over Twitter. It was kind of funny because a lot of Leafs fans got on Nylander very quickly, and now they're getting back on him. I haven't heard too much on the demise of John Tavares, I would say, if that's what's being mentioned here. I've seen, some consistency in his play. I'm seeing the big gaps with William Nylander and his effort and his back checking and his physicality. I think that when a guy like, no comparison in skill level, but Nylander, and you have a guy like Simmons out there who creates space and makes it a little bit more intimidating for, other teams to play against, it gets more space for guys like Nylander. Nylander can't create his own space with his body, physicality, holding off guys with his sticks. He needs his edges and his hands, which is great. He has those edges and hands, but when it comes to being on a line with a bunch of people who just want to do edges and handwork, you need some guys that want to go into the corners too. And Wayne Simmons, Mikheyev, Hyman, only one of those three names I just named were in the lineup last night, right? So you're missing some of your most grindful guys, and we can't dissect a game too much like last night when you're even missing one of your biggest defensemen who stands up for every shot block, every net battle. It's Jake Muzzin, right? So hopefully Jake Muzzin gets better. And the Leafs continue to stay easy top one, top two with no questions.
Yeah, and just a quick note on Muzzin before we move on to Montreal. It looks like he'll be back in a game or two. He broke a bone in his face, and he's just going to play with a face shield. So I don't think we have too much to be concerned about. But that could affect his game a little bit because he does like to mix it up, and he's probably going to get a lot of fishbowl comments. But we'll see what happens there.
Here we go.
Montreal Canadiens are regressing back to their standards. This is going to be a little bit of analytics for everybody. Let me kind of put it in simple terms to start off with. Montreal started the season kind of on a hot tear. People started calling them a juggernaut, saying that they were the best team in Canada. Some even went as far to say they were the best team in the league. And I believe I said multiple times, no, they're not. They're way overperforming. Montreal's not the best team even in their own division, let alone the third best team in their division. And now they're starting to come back to their standard. And I want to give a shout out to Rachel Dory of the Staff and Graph podcast, who tweeted this on February 4th, 2021. Montreal has been, sorry, wrong tweet. All this to say, Montreal is a really good team. Definitely top two in the North, no question. I just wonder what happens when the percentages start to normalize. Fans tend to overreact when in actuality they're overperforming in traditionally unsustainable areas. So for example, Jeff Petrie on February 4th was shooting at 30% when his career average was 6. Tatar was shooting 22% when his career average was 13. Toffoli at 21% when his average was 10. And Anderson at 20% when his average was 10.9. So they were way overperforming. Carey Price was also overperforming with a 9.29 save percentage. And it looks like they're starting to regress back to their normal. So do we feel a little differently about Montreal now knowing that they were overperforming?
Well, I said at the beginning of this, if we have to roll back the tape, we will. But I kind of knew Montreal would do this. Like, there was no track record of the roster they had now having long-term success. Like, they haven't done it before with this kind of core group, I would say. Because, like, I don't know, man. I just don't think Montreal's good. Like, you look at, like, the league.
I think they're the fourth best team in the division.
Okay, well, that's nice, Josh. Yeah, so, sorry. Yeah, so, yeah, you just kind of look at Montreal and, like, they ask so much out of, like, Drouin, Toffoli, Anderson. It's like, these guys aren't Draisaitl, Patrick Kane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the elite superstars. Like, no offense to Josh Anderson, Tyler Toffoli, but if they made back-to-back All-Star games, I would be shocked.
They're like, tier 3. Let's bring out Josh's tier. They're a tier 3 player.
Exactly. Tier 3 players, you're probably top 6 forward, top 6'9", top 4D. You're pretty good. You're add value. You're needed to win Stanley Cups. But if you don't have that elite talent, it's kind of tough. Yeah. And I was reading some articles about Montreal, and, like, the people who they're throwing out of the bus, they want to trade, like, Suzuki or, like, this, that. It's like, I have no idea what the fans want and what people are expecting out of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, it's different to say we should make the playoffs in this kind of division, this kind of matchup, because it favors us.
Which they will.
Yeah, that's 100% okay. That makes sense. But to think that you're going to beat Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Scheifele, all these studs on a night-to-night basis, it's not realistic. Like, you need Carey Price to stand on his head. And I just think, personally, from a Montreal fan, I will wait a few years for Suzuki to become – I don't think he will, but Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, Romanov has progress. Cole Caulfield is up. When those guys reach, like, 25 maybe – and then they're like gonna go, and maybe I don't think they'll ever be on that level in McDavid's and them. But you need stars. Like, you can't just have a really good signing into Foley or Josh Anderson and expect them to carry you where you need to go. So I just think this whole Montreal thing, you need to temper your expectations. You need to relax, and there's still a lot of season to come up. So I don't think fans or coaches should be turning on each other. Like, I saw a lot of people point fingers at Claude Julien.
Yes, that was what I wanted to bring up
next. Yeah, for some unknown reason. So yeah, Josh, Brandon, you guys can take it away, but I just think this is a team that needs to relax.
I remember, Josh, I know I didn't associate the tweet by name with Rachel Dory, but now I remember the tweet with the statistics and the graph. I remember you sent me that. So that was it's kind of a shot at the players. I'm not sure if they see that stuff, but it's kind of like, I don't like how that graph shows that players can't get better, or they can't have a decent run, or they can't have, you know what I mean? Like, if you have an average, you have an average for sure, but averages can get better, and you only, increase your average.
Yeah, but not by 25%.
Yeah, I think that was just showing, like, they're lucky.
100%, but I don't want, look at me, I'm not the NHLPA, but I don't want players to feel, discouraged that their averages mean more than their current. I mean, Matthews just went on an 18-game streak. Do we think that he's going to get, 56 goals, maybe 45 to 50? We can.
No, but I think he's getting 50.
Right, for sure. But that point's kind of besides it. In terms of Claude Julien, I don't like his mannerisms, if that makes sense. He's very dull. He's
So you want him fired because you don't like his manners?
No. Mannerisms. The way he acts. His mannerisms. Kind of the way he talks to the media. He's all about keeping things in-house, which is whatever. Like, Montreal and Toronto are two huge markets. You don't want to let everything get out to the media, but when you're boring as shit and your name's the Montreal Canadiens, and you're looking for some type of media coverage, Claude Julien is probably one of the worst faces to have talk for your team, and he's just boring to look at to me. I'm not sure about his coaching style. He's been around for a while. There's a lot of coaches that have been around for a while that might not deserve to be in the league, but Claude Julien, has that. I'm sure he has a French-Canadian connection or something like that.
No, he does, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the community probably loves him for that. There's some some fans that won't be happy seeing him let go. But they have a weird GM. I mean, he's a weird man. He's been dressing.
He's weird, eh?
He's been going through a little bit of a midlife crisis, Marc Bergevin, it looks like. So who knows what maybe they do some deals. I don't know what those deals would be, but hopefully there's nothing with the Maple Leafs.
Brandon actually said a lot of good stuff. Just kind of branch off some of the trades that they were thinking, and I don't know if they want to throw these people under the bus, but I actually have a list right here. Thomas Tatar, Paul Byron, and Philip Deneau. And just talk about Tatar and Deneau. Most of that is contract extension. They'll both be UFAs, and like I heard Deneau wants like 6x6 or something like absurd.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Like he's been mentioned in the Selke a little bit, but like I think when you have Suzuki and Kotkaniemi coming up in center, it's not really smart to sign someone who might be your second, third line center or 6x6. So they are looking apparently to trade Philip Deneau. They put Paul Byron on the taxi squad, which fans are upset. But like I don't know, like who kind of really gives a fuck if Paul Byron's on your taxi squad? Yeah, so it's kind of branch off what Brandon said. Their management, I think, needs to relax because, like, they kind of made the expectations this year so overblown. Talking about, this might be our year, win the cup, blah 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 blah.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. Who's the backup goalie for the Canadians? Who's behind Price?
Jake Allen.
Yeah, so they brought Jake Allen in thinking it was going to give Price extra rest, so he's going to be even better. And I'm just like, maybe that will work. Like, even if Carey Price is a little better, Carey Price is never the problem. So I don't understand why he gets so. No, Joe, I know it's a little inconsistent, but like, think about what they have asked him to do for the last 8 years since like 2010.
Would you say he's the best player on that team?
It doesn't matter.
He's the best player.
When you're making $10 million a year.
Josh, I hate it when people say this. You make 10, but like they signed him
to be the best player on the ice.
But Josh, listen, they signed him to an 8-year deal, making 10.5 when he was 29.
Yeah.
He's like 33 right now. It's unrealistic to think in a division with Draisaitl, Scheifele, Matthews, and all these scorers that he's going to stand on his head every game. It's unrealistic. So when I watch Montreal and they score, I saw Josh Anderson in the overtime just standing there, and Tkachuk sniped it. Like, I think
that was fantastic.
That was hilarious. Yeah. So I think there's so many other things before I would even point at goaltending. Maybe it's a little inconsistent and you want it to be an elite because you're paying guys 10.5. But like, I don't know. I just think there's other factors that make it a good, successful team. Pointing at the goalie is a weak excuse, in my opinion. I think people do that too much.
We're talking about Montreal, and what's one thing that we all agreed on? They're average. They just have a team of average players.
Mediocre, correct?
Yeah.
Mediocre.
So, well, maybe that's a little far, but like they're just they're tier 3 players, right?
So, but that's mediocre.
They have some. I wouldn't say Josh Anderson's mediocre.
He's above mediocre.
But like, so you're trading. Let's say you trade Danault. What are you getting back for him that makes you better?
Oh, I know. Actually, because I read this in the article. Like, when they want to trade these players, they don't want to do picks or anything because they want to win now, blah, blah, yeah, and that type of stuff.
But
so they want more young players to build on the Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, Romanov, Caulfield kind of core. So an example I saw it was they trade Danault to Edmonton for who's the good young forward, the right wing, Yamamoto. Yeah. So
that doesn't make them better though.
It makes them different, and I just think Montreal wants to be different. So I don't know. Like, long term, I would personally like temper expectations, sell off Tatar and Danault, and build on my young core. But I have no idea why they want to win now so badly. Like, I just think this Canadian division has unrealistic expectations for each market. You know?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just, to me, it kind of reminds me of the Leafs a little bit, because Montreal is a young team. They got some young players, and I think they just got to wait for them to kind of develop a little bit. And this seems like a good year to do it, because you're still going to make the playoffs. You got some experience in the playoffs last year that you definitely weren't expecting. And I just think that they need to wait and see. Like, maybe go out and get some additional pieces, but don't trade away pieces of your team that you have right now to improve for 1 year. And I don't think Claude Julien's the problem either. Like, yeah, he's a little dull in the media and all that, but he's done a good job there with the kids and everything. What are they in at the moment? They're in 4th, 3rd.
Yeah, they're in a playoff spot. Yeah,
they're in a playoff spot, so he's doing his job. But I just think it's kind of a wait and see with Montreal right now, because their kids still have to develop. They got some good prospects in the minors playing in Laval. I don't think there's too much they can do, because they've kind of dug themselves into a hole where just everything they have is average.
Wait,
and that's
Josh,
all you're going to get in return.
You kind of pointed at this. Do you think Carey Price is overrated?
I feel like I do.
Why?
Because everyone hypes him up as the best goalie in the league, and he's not even top 10 anymore.
Name 10 better goalies than Carey Price right now.
Andre Vasilevsky, Tuukka Rask, Jacob Markstrom.
You would rather have Markstrom than Price in one game. Just one game win all.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, I guess. Okay, that was 3. Keep going.
Frederick Anderson's better than Carey Price.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Who else? Let me think here.
Okay, you only named 4
John
still
Gibson.
though. No, I'm going through. Yeah, John Gibson.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I haven't watched many. Yeah, Hellebuck for sure. Hellebuck for sure. Not Matt Murray. I don't know why I had to break him up.
Binnington, maybe.
No,
Binnington,
a little inconsistent.
Yeah.
You know what? It doesn't matter, Josh. My point to you was more just he has a mediocre team in front of him, so it's going to be hard to be a 10.5 MVP goalie in the night-to-night basis in this division. Would you agree with that at least?
The only time
he's won an MVP as a goalie. Come on, that's insane.
In 2014.
No, but in my opinion, it's that much more impressive because he's been so dominant since then. And this Montreal team has given what? Max Pacioretty, he's got, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of look at it as a bigger picture. And like, there's other guys I want to throw stones at before it's him. Like, dude, I think
let me put it at you like this: the best goalie in the league makes the Olympic team. Are you picking Carey Price as the starting goaltender for Team Canada if the Olympics start tomorrow?
I would go Carter Hart, Carey Price, and I'm drawing a blank, but I'm pretty sure I'll go
Price isn't your starter.
I think. Well, Hockey Canada is kind of different because it's kind of an old boys club. People have to remember this is in 2 years or a year, and people still have Bergeron on the top line, over, like, you know what I mean? So I think he might just get the bump in the starting role just because of like experience. He's older and that stuff. But I know what you're trying to say. In terms of does he actually deserve it? Probably not. You would like to give other guys a look, but he will be there, I think we could say, at least. You know, Josh? Yeah.
All right, let's move on from shitty on Carey Price. Let's go to the actual best player in the NHL right now, or one of the top two for sure. Connor McDavid is tearing up the league along with Leon Draisaitl. And you know what? We'll throw him in there too. Matthews and Marner. Those four guys are carrying the league right now in points production. But the Oilers, kind of off to a rough start they were, and they've kind of turned it around in the last 10 games. I believe they're 8-2 in the last 10. And they got some pretty good statistics. McDavid, I think he's at 38 points now. Draisaitl's not too far behind him. Darnell Nurse is playing an average of 29 minutes a night. Koskinen's kind of back on the ball, making not a lot of saves, but enough to get them a win. And they look like an overall decent team who can make a run because their top players are going and their depth is producing. And I think that's all we can expect from the Oilers at the moment. So my question kind of is, and Montreal, it can kind of relate to this. Do you think the Oilers are overperforming at the moment, or is this what we can expect from them moving forward?
Well, Josh, like the statistics that you kind of said, like don't really tell the whole story, because 4 out of 8 of their wins were against Ottawa.
Right.
So, and like those Ottawa games, I think one of them I'm looking at it right now was 8-5. And that was when McDavid had like 5 points in the first 2 periods. So I think they're just winning, like kind of, they're just like they beat Calgary 7-1 on Saturday. Like,
no, the Leafs couldn't get past Calgary or Ottawa twice.
Yeah, but I think us playing Ottawa is more Ottawa has our number than it is us not like being a good hockey team. I think it's one of those things. Yeah. Like Ottawa and Buffalo the last 10 years have played us really well, which is kind of odd. Like even before Matthews and Marner. But just kind of going back to Edmonton, Josh, I agree with you. I think they're a good team. Before the season, I think I had them finish second actually. Mm-hmm. So they're doing exactly what I had Toronto 1, Edmonton 2, Winnipeg 3, and Vancouver 4, which I kind of regret.
In the Canadian division.
The Canadian division. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just think McDavid and Draisaitl are so dominant. Like they're definitely the best duo. I think they're first, and Matthews and Marner are probably second right now. But yeah, like you said, Koskinen stepping up. Darnell Nurse, that's crazy what he's been doing. He's just juggernaut back there. Trains at the Burlington Pond. Shout out. I think Edmonton's pretty good, but like I don't know if they can sustain it because like I don't know, McDavid, like he's just so good. Like I know whenever you talk about the Oilers, it's kind of annoying that all we talk about is McDavid, Draisaitl, but they're really this. Yeah, exactly. They're kind of.
Yeah, I got a question for you guys related to this, if you guys are ready for it. But
go.
Obviously, well before our time, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux were tearing up every Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, and every other night when they played. But that got broadcasted across, not just Canada, but the world. And now it's catching up to some people, especially those reporters who watched it back in the day. We got some comparisons. They say that Matthews and McDavid are a second coming of Lemieux and Gretzky. Some even compared it more recently to Ovechkin and Crosby.
I like that one better.
I hate comparisons like that.
I love it.
No, because when I watch Matthews and McDavid, I go, that's not Sid. Sid and Crosby was a totally different rivalry because it was a different game.
And they hated each other. They actually
didn't like each other.
They didn't like each other. I can't say they hated each other, but you saw a video. Sorry, you see pictures even on the nationally globalized, whatever, the broadcast on Saturday night on CBC or whatever. They'll show the picture of Matthews and McDavid, best friends working out in the summer, right? And I hate it's hard to create a rivalry right there.
I hate comparisons. Like you can't compare a rivalry to a rivalry because so much.
I think you're looking at it wrong, Josh. I don't think it's a rivalry to a rivalry. I think it's comparing dominance in an era to a dominance in another.
I can understand that, but
I'm not done.
Okay.
Sorry, Josh. Yeah, but when I look at it, sorry about that. I look at from like 2005 to like 2015, like President's Trophy. It was either Pittsburgh or Washington. Playoffs, Pittsburgh, Washington. Sid got 3 cups. Ovi got a cup. The Olympics, it was the Canada-Russia showdown, that World Juniors. So I just think every big game, the Winter Classic, it was always Crosby and Ovechkin.
Yeah.
So I look at it more in terms of like when I turn on the highlights after every game, I see one of these 2 players. And it's starting to get to the point where when we watch the highlights, it's just Matthews and McDavid. So I think it's fair to make maybe not in terms of legacy and winning cups and scoring titles or whatever you want to say, but I just think in terms of wow factor, in terms of clicks, in terms of social media, in terms of big games, you have the best player who's American playing in the biggest market in Canada, and you have the best Canadian player playing in the place where Wayne Gretzky played. Like, obviously, you're going to have these comparisons. Like, just natural.
So there's only one issue with this, okay? And maybe I can buy. Maybe I can. No. I think you're gonna get this. How many times are they playing each other this year? 10?
A lot, yeah. Maybe 8. I don't know.
How many times do they play each other in a regular season?
2.
How do you create a rivalry over 2 seasons? You can't do it. How many times did Sid and Ovechkin play each other?
Like 6 times a year and plus playoffs.
6 to 8 plus playoffs. So they were seeing each other up to 15 times a season.
And international.
And
well,
international,
I believe you keep going, but I see where you're going.
I don't think, like, yeah, you can compare them this season, but if you go on the next season and they split the conferences again, they're seeing each other twice. You can't have a.
But Josh, you're not listening.
It's really over in a matter of like half a year. It's this rivalry.
Yeah.
Josh, I don't think you understand, though. It's not a rivalry. It's just you are the 2 best players in the league by far.
Right.
Yeah,
but the only league they're playing in is the Canadian Tire division where Timbits runs free.
Yeah, like you're not. It can't fully breathe because they're not like Sid and
they're not dominating the rest of the league.
Yeah, it just seems kind of isolated right now.
I'm not yelling at you, Matt, but
I understand. I agree, but just to kind of like say something else. What if, say they do this, then say one of them wins the MVP this year. Next year they only play each other twice, but in terms of the league, it's MVP again, Matthews, McDavid, and then next year they play in the Olympics. And then say 6 years from now they play in the Stanley Cup Final.
It has the potential.
Exactly.
Does. Yeah.
Like a good comparison in my view is LeBron and Kevin Durant. They never played for the longest time in the same division, but it just happened. Cleveland, Golden State. Like they only played each other twice, like you said, Josh. But like the NHL gave them Christmas Day. They gave them the first game. Like, so I just think if I'm the NHL and I'm a smart marketing person, Edmonton, Toronto are going to have a Winter Classic coming up. I would give them a Winter Classic.
Very good.
But but that's not, I don't think that would be player based. That would be market based because those are your 2 biggest Canadian markets.
But that's the point. Like that, like think about it. Lemieux and Gretzky at the time, they were dominant. Like Gretzky won a bunch of rings in the 80s and the beginning of 90s when Lemieux won those 2. So there's constant back and forth in just, I just think if the best players are on the best teams and it's the same 2 guys, like it or not, I don't want to say rivalries, but there's going to be comparisons. You know what I mean? Well, I think it's kind of different.
We don't have to spend too much time on this.
Yeah, we can move on. I think this is a good conversation.
I don't know, Josh, if you have anything to say, but I'll go right into it with a good transition you made too, Matt.
You beat me to it.
There was some rumblings that this year's Lake Tahoe Outdoor Classic game was actually supposed to be played in Lake Louise.
Yeah.
And they're still planning on having something related to Lake Louise out here in Canada, where that game would probably be the Leafs and the Oilers when you look at it. But I was thinking about it, and I remember when the Oilers and the Jets played. Laine McDavid played that one year, and it was just one line. You waited every 5 minutes to see McDavid and Laine play, and there was no depth. But when the Leafs play, I can imagine it. But if outdoor game in Canada was to come around, I'd hope that the Oilers would be more of a competitive depth team. I'm not saying that they only have a front run, like they're front loaded, right? But let's move along past what's not actually happening and move on to what happened. And Josh, you want to break down the postponement of the first game on Saturday?
Yeah, so I was watching the game and I missed the first period and I hadn't checked my phone in a while. I was attending to an injury, so I was.
That's got to get a charger. Keep talking.
Yeah, so I was dealing with something. I thought I'll put the game on just while I deal with this, and I put it on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're at intermission. Oh, we're still in intermission." I'm going, "What the hell's going on? This intermission's been like 20 minutes." So I go and check, and the game had been postponed. And when I paid closer attention to the broadcast, the ice was actually melting. And it turns out the NHL didn't really think about what would happen if the sun was out, I guess. They were expecting cloud cover. And you know what? I feel bad for the NHL because the event was it was a beautiful event. Like the backdrop, the way it was set up, just the look of the lake and the mountains. And it was a shame they had to postpone the game and delay it. But yeah, it's the way they built the ice. I'm kind of an ice technician nerd. The logos they used on the ice were painted on instead of put on with mesh, and the paint they used attract heat. So the ice over the logos was actually softer than the rest of the ice because the heat was being drawn in by the sun because there was no cloud cover over the sun. So that's why that was happening. And after the first period, the NHL decided that it wasn't safe to play on, and they pushed the game to 9 p.m. local, midnight our time. And that's where I went, no, I won't be watching this one. I got work in the morning. So I watched a little bit of the one the next day, which was just as good. Pasternak had a hat trick. He likes to show up in big games like that. And I thought the overall look of the event was good. From an event management standpoint, Brandon and I can relate to this. You maybe should have thought about what would happen if the sun was directly on the arena. And I know the NHL wanted that game to be in daylight so you could get a full look of the place, but I don't know what you could have done to avoid the ice being soft apart.
Yeah, you got to give them a little bit of salutations, of congratulations that they pulled off 20 minutes during that daylight anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun and unfortunate to see. If you were watching, they also, had that highlight tape of like 5 guys and the referee all going into ice chips in the middle of the period. And you could tell that it wasn't really your 10 out of 10 NHL ice regulations or standards.
Yeah.
But before I go to that, I'll say my overall point of, we can get to the second game, but on the Saturday, it was kind of a little bit of a question mark, right? If you're there and your Saturday was around watching the outdoor game, you had a long fucking Saturday. And you were waiting all night to finish it if you were a diehard fan. But luckily, the Leafs played for us, and it was nice. The shots and the media coverage was great. Some of the photos that was taken were amazing. They used the right jerseys, both teams, and I feel like the first game could have had more potential to be better than the second game, even though the second game got played through and through, if that makes sense. But I want to hear what you have to say. Did you watch any of the games, Matt?
Yeah, I watched both of them. It was cool. Like, I just think, like you guys kind of said, some of the pictures were amazing. Like, you saw that McAvoy goal. And how they had like in the background, like I just thought that was so cool. If you haven't saw that, like I recommend you Googling a photo. But yeah, like it was kind of like sucks, like the ice. Like you did see a lot of people falling, which is not funny because it's dangerous, but it is kind of funny just because like I don't know.
No one was hurt.
Yeah, no one was hurt, so it's okay. But yeah, I just want to give kudos to the NHL. Like with Corona, they tried something really fun. Like usually Winter Classics and outdoor games, they book it years in advance. This they didn't really have that much time to prepare. And just in terms of building and stuff, with Corona, I'm pretty sure they had protocols and stuff. So I don't know if they had as many like builders as they normally would. Like, so I actually have no idea. So I want to say they did a good job. I like the jerseys, like you guys were saying. But the only thing that sucked was the Boston-Philly blowout, which like you see games like that, you want it to be kind of close. Like I remember the Leafs outdoor game, the Bozak shootout winner, when Matthews scored that overtime goal. Like usually you want it to be close and eventful. Which it wasn't. So that kind of sucks. But overall, I would say the NHL did a good job. This is good, growing the game, thinking outside of the box. And I definitely think they should do like something kind of similar. Yeah, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, and like I think what made it as well, they said it was a fanless event, but you had those people pulling up on the boats and on their paddle boards. And that was kind of cool. It made for a cool, a nice overall picture of kind of when the NHL said they're in a little bit of a dark spot with this year. It just was something different to look at, and it's something they can definitely explore into the future. And I think we can pull out of this. My favorite thing that came out of this, to be honest, was the memes coming out of it about Gary Bettman versus the Sun. So that was my favorite one was breaking news. Gary Bettman discovers Sun is hot.
Rivalry. That's the new Gretzky versus Lemieux.
That's the Sid Ovechkin of this year. Gary Bettman versus the Sun. On to some less fun news.
Wait, I gotta say something quick.
Yeah.
Just the one person I want to give shit to is Alex Pietrangelo. Because I don't know if you saw, but McKinnon was coming in on him. And like, I'm not joking. I think maybe not physically, but mentally, this guy gave up. Like I've never seen
did you okay? Like no. Did you?
He was like, "Oh no!" It's like, bro, what?
Did you hear? He was mic'd up. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh boy!" Like
he was like, "Oh boy."
First of all, like
it just blew by him.
He had a chance though, Josh. Don't you think? Like, he could have stepped up a little more. He didn't even bend his knees, and he's like, I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
But like,
I saw the replay, and I saw it on Twitter. I thought someone added the "oh boy." I was like, "Oh, that's funny." And I saw it on TSN. I'm like, "Wait, what? He actually said that?" So
yeah, that was an interesting little click. I like that, something like a soundbite like that gets out, and it's not just for hockey fans, it's for athletes everywhere. You've always had a defender, whether it's in basketball or a player you match up against in football, where you kind of know their skills and you're not always happy to go against it. And McKinnon's one of the fastest players in the league, and if you saw that video, he just used Pietrangelo as a screen, shot right through him. It was a beautiful goal. But we can move right along. We've talked a lot of hockey. What were you going to say, Josh?
We're going to talk some more hockey. Matt, give us a really quick rundown of what happened in Arizona.
Okay. To be kind of tough to do it quickly, but yeah. So basically, Arizona, they've kind of very mismanaged. They've kind of been mismanaged for a long time. They had a new ownership group who we all had high expectations for. They were saying all the right stuff, and I think I want to believe he is of Mexican descent. So they have a lot of Mexican people down in Arizona. So he did a lot of outreach programs and is trying to build a buzz. But it came out that they're mean to their sponsors, and he basically treats the Arizona Coyotes like a business. So he's really cheap. Like I heard he was trying to get the napkins price low, which is weird. And like you fly to every NHL game, and like he didn't want to pay the pilot people or the people who did. Like he's just very late, and he just kind of comes across as cheap and makes a lot of things harder that doesn't really need to be harder. He was kind of mean to some employees. There are some accusations that I don't really want to get into because it's allegedly you have had alleged workplace behavior that's been inappropriate, whether that's verbal and some other stuff you don't have to talk to. But basically, shout out to Katie Strang. Was it Josh?
Yeah, Katie Strang from The Athletic.
Read the article. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, she worked on this article for like 4 or 5 months.
This actually started because this started July 1st, which wasn't actually on July 1st, but basically every player gets the signing bonus on one day. And the Coyotes, like they are cheap, but they do have big contracts. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I think Nick Schmaltz and a few Jacob Chicker and a few other guys signed extension. Their signing bonus was late that day, so that started the investigation. So she's been doing it, and she got a lot of employees. And the only thing that I was really upset about was Armstrong. I don't know if it's Doug or Bill. There's so many Armstrongs, I feel like. But their GM was actually kind of did a phone call, and he was kind of rude to her, just saying, "Oh, how did you get this information?" and just saying all these rude stuff. So I just think the Mitchell Miller situation, there's just so much bad things in Arizona. Like, we don't have to give them that much time, but I just think it's truly awful, and I think the fans of the Coyotes deserve better.
Yeah, and it's a good article. I suggest you to read it, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit more in our debate section. Panarin is kind of going through something scary, and
be careful now.
Yeah, hang on. So sorry, guys. We just got a comment on something here. Brandon and I are just checking our phones because Tiger Woods has been hospitalized after a car crash. He's in emergency surgery right now. So we'll just keep you updated as we find out. So if you see me poking my head down, that's what we're doing.
We're having Tiger Woods in our prayers right now for sure, if regardless of association with the guy or not. He's one of the greatest athletes of all time. And if during this show, unfortunately, there is some crazy news that's been broken. And Tiger Woods has, in fact, had some injuries on his leg that's had it's crazy. I don't want to talk about it too much, but if we know anything else about Tiger Woods, it's he wanted to play in the Masters, and so this is kind of it's a scary morning. It happened at 7:30 something this morning, so a rough day. Hopefully hopefully not too rough of a day for golf fans. If we can find out some positive news about Tiger Woods later, but
so we'll keep you updated as we can. But let's move on to Artemi Panarin.
And I was gonna say, everyone watch their mouth now.
Yeah, so I don't need to watch my mouth. I'm not Russian. So there's a huge political battle going on in Russia right now between Putin and some competition.
Navalny.
Now, as we know in Russia, Putin doesn't like to give up his power because
allegedly
he never has. Dude,
all speaking in allegedlys.
I hope Putin listens to this podcast.
Josh, we might have to go to Russia one day. What if we have to cover like the World Juniors or something? You better watch your mouth.
I'll do it on Zoom. So, but then, so Panarin has spoken out in support of Putin's opposition,
Navalny,
and thank you, Matt. And this was like a couple months ago now, right?
Yeah, correct.
And he's kept speaking up about it, and so have a couple other NHL players. And then an article breaks yesterday that Panarin in 2011 beat up an 18-year-old girl in a hotel. And everybody was instantly honest, saying, okay, yeah, here's the connection to the Russian government. Here's what happened. And they reached out to the hotel, who said, no, nothing like this has happened. Panarin has taken a leave of absence from the Rangers team, not because he has admitted that he's done it. He is standing by the fact that this is all fabricated and an attack from the Russian government, but because he's scared for his family. And he's still in the States, but he's taking care of his family from, I believe he's still in New York. So it's just kind of a scary situation that when you take it outside of sports, it's like, holy shit, like this is how much, these players get involved in stuff like this. And I don't really quite know what to say about it, because it's a crazy story that I would never expect anything like this to come out of the NHL.
I really want to touch on it personally.
Here we are today, right? Like it's just a bizarre situation. And I hope it gets resolved.
Because he's a great hockey player, and that's that's his job right now, and he should be playing hockey, and he should be worried about the New York Rangers. And I don't know what else to say.
It seems like the sole reason for this, there's been some deep dives, it's like the sole reason for this happening is so that they can keep him off the the Russian Olympic team, which won't even be called Team Russia at the Olympics.
Right.
So we'll see where this goes. It looks like him and his family are going to be okay. They're all in the States, I believe, now. So let's hope everything works out there, and we find out the actual story of what happened.
We can see him back on the ice sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, NBA. Are we going to move on to a little bit of a different sport here, or what do we got going?
Yeah, we'll talk about the NBA, and then we're ended with Matt's debates, and then we're good to go, boys. So, Josh, you want to touch on the NBA?
Yeah, just quickly, the Raptors, they're kind of on a hot streak right now. Where are they on a 4-game win streak at the moment? They're now at 500.
They're just one game above 500, actually.
One game above 500 now. They're heating up, and I heard a fun conversation on TSN 1050 Overdrive at 4 to 7:30 with Hayes, O-Dog, and Noodles. Well, plug there for them. Not that they need it. Are the Raptors... Sorry, let me read that. Should the Raptors be scared of anybody in the East in a 7-game playoff series? Because I'm under the impression that most people are like, no, we shouldn't be scared. We can compete with anybody here. What do you think?
Yeah, Matt, let me go first, because you always have a great opinion on basketball for sure. So I'm not saying mine's worse, but in terms of the East, it's a very tough conference right now. But the good news is for the Raptors is that on their recent streak, they beat the top team, and that was the 76ers. The Brooklyn Nets are kind of injury plagued right now, but they're still doing their thing, and they're 11-2. I saw against teams above 500. They're doing really good against the competitive, side of the league. For the Raptors, it sucks that they had to have 15 losses stamped next to their record right now, because they had such a slow start to the year. But I said that they were gonna roll on a pretty bad wagon this year, and they've really turned it around. A part of that is the success of their whole coaching staff. We can move on to how one of the best offensive minds on that bench is now gone, and how that will affect the Raptors. But in terms of where they are at right now, they're in a steady, 5th playoff position, where they would be playing, not home court, but they're behind a couple teams where it's like 2 or 3 games, and it's, it's early right now. Hopefully they seem to be finding their stride, and they've been making some rumblings, hopefully in the news, for a trade deadline, maneuver, if you will. So hopefully we can get some help. That Drummond news died down a long time ago. Hopefully something's happening, because we don't have really of a competitive center. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the Raptors are 14-0 without Kyle Lowry or something like that. So
16-0 now.
16-0. There's a real odd stat going around about how Kyle Lowry sold his house in Toronto. There's a bunch of things going around on what we could get for Kyle Lowry. So with that being said, Matt, where are you taking us?
Yeah, so Kyle Lowry is a free agent after this year, so I would expect him to leave just because of where it's going. But yeah, Brandon, you're right. We definitely need a big man. And I know we're from Toronto, and we have to talk about Toronto, but no offense to the Raptors, but when you look at this conference, maybe they're beat Indianapolis, because right now it's 4 against 5, and we could probably beat them.
Indiana.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
I was just about to ask you that. Could they take on Indiana?
Yeah, we can take them on, but that's not the point. I just think you have Ben Simmons, Giannis, and Brooklyn just beat the Lakers with LeBron playing. So I just think no matter what the Raptors do, they get a big man. We might make it out of the first round, but Raptors fans should not have a lot of hope.
No, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, if you're a Raptors
fan, I know that's really
you're listening to Matt, you're kind of let down right now. But
yeah, sorry about that.
the hope, I say, is found in this recent streak and the fact that they've galvanized themselves from second last in the league to affordable, comfortable playoff position. There's a lot of news in the NBA. We could go on forever on external Raptors news, but one thing that just leads outside of the Raptors is.
Hang on 1 second. Are the Cavaliers? I just saw. Are the Cavs 0-10 in their last 10?
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I just saw that on the NBA website. Like, wow. Okay,
so they are.
You guys, Minnesota Timberwolves have fired their most recent head coach. Chris Finch is the name of the Raptors individual who's coming in now from the assistant position in Toronto, taking over the head role in Minnesota.
More like Chris fired inch.
Sorry?
More like Chris fired inch. Because he's fired.
Chris Finch was.
Who was fired?
Who was fired?
You said Chris Finch was fired.
No.
He was hired.
My bad.
No. I was looking for the name of the coach.
Minnesota guy who got fired, but we don't know. Okay, so anyways,
Chris Finch is the name of the Raptors coach who's coming over. Chris Finch has not been fired. He's actually been hired to coach the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know the name of the individual who was fired from the Minnesota Timberwolves.
It doesn't matter.
That's where I went wrong. And it's not important to us. Yes, that's correct. But what is important is to notice the effect of what could happen, because I heard that coming in, this was one of the most effective offensive minds on the Raptors bench, and he was actually implementing a bunch of the zones, offensive strategies, tactics, X's and O's. So I'm not really too interested on anything outside of the Raptors organization in basketball right now. What do you got?
I think it's time for Matt's debates.
I just want to say the Raptors, I think they knew what they were doing. They played Minnesota twice before this guy was hired. And it seemed like it was a move that was going to happen. And
interesting to note that this move came hours after, or maybe the morning after, the Timberwolves lost to the New York Knicks. And so apparently that is a cutoff point for teams, but the New York Knicks are actually within they're within a playoff hunt right now. They're in that spot where they would be in that wild card tournament or whatever. But that is something that broke, is that was the last straw that they lost to the Knicks. But they have a crazy roster, right? They got the first overall pick just ruined one of our Raptors the other night and one of the biggest posters of the year. But they have Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell, so we'll see what kind of happens with if you follow that coach, Chris Finch from the Raptors. But
Brandon, I got a quick question for you before we move on. I'm too big of an NBA guy. I know enough to have a conversation, I think. Are the Knicks the Red Wings of the NBA?
That's a great question.
No,
so
the
currently
Knicks
sitting,
are like
I
the
would
Sabres.
say that since the what did you say?
I said they're like the Sabres because when you look at the Knicks, Josh, this hasn't been 3 or 4
that's
years.
A very good.
The
that's
Red
a good
Wings.
out. That's a good.
They've been bad for the last 20. It's major. So I'm trying to give you a good comparison. Maybe
Sabres is a good one.
But maybe Edmonton with no McDavid ever. And instead of picking first overall, they pick 7th overall for the last 30 years, and a bad owner. So I've never seen anything like the Knicks.
I always hear bad talk about the Knicks.
So the Knicks are a funny story. When you say Detroit, Detroit is still in the bottom of the league. So over the last centuries of whatever, the New York Knicks have been one of the laughing stocks, organizational and skill wise. Except I can't knock when Carmelo Anthony came and all that skill. That was a great run. However, that didn't get them a ring or a title. But, the last few years have been a lot of people banging on their picks like RJ. Some people didn't even know who Kristaps Porzingis was back when they drafted him. And now
that was funny.
So the New York Knicks is a franchise where a lot of their problems have actually stemmed from players not wanting to join the management. And they had a guy named Dolan or something like that. And I don't know if he's still there.
He's still there. And, he's the owner.
And he's not. He's not a very positive face.
What a stupid last name.
Right.
Yeah, Josh. I'll talk about the Knicks for 2 seconds because it's actually hilarious. So, like Brandon said, they had Porzingis, who is their literally only good player, right? But in the NBA, you can only give out a certain number max contracts back then. They changed it now. So they thought they were going to get Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Jordan. They thought they were going to get all 3 of them, right?
This is when they were deciding to choose between Brooklyn
Porzingis and So they traded Porzingis to open up all the slots And instead of getting those three, they went to their biggest rival. So just imagine, like, you think you're going to get McDavid, so you trade Marner for the cap space, and then McDavid joins Montreal. Like, that's literally what happened. Like, it's so embarrassing. So, yeah, we can go on to Matt's debates because, like,
let's do it.
The Knicks are kind of embarrassing. So, we haven't done this in a while. We have lots of debate questions. I think we touched on all three of them briefly during the podcast.
Let's try and keep them short. We're running long here.
Not really, but anyways, okay, yeah. So
we're coming to the fan with something that they can put on a car ride to Walmart if the Walmart's 3 towns away.
Go to the closer Walmart.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah. So I have 3 questions. The first one, we talked about the Arizona Coyotes. Shout out Katie again. Go look at the article in The Athletic. They have not been good. So the question literally is, should the Coyotes leave Arizona?
I'll start this because I don't know where Brandon went, but there he is.
Keep going.
Okay, I'll start this. Should the Coyotes leave Arizona? I'm going to go with yes, I think they should, while also acquiring new ownership on the way out. So this is kind of a two-headed monster here. The Coyotes, let's start with the ownership. It's been a mess since, 2015 now. They don't get fans in the building. Nobody knows where the building is. They don't even play in Arizona. They play like 45 minutes from downtown Arizona. And they've been struggling for a while now. They can't seem to get people into the building and interested in the team. It's not a hockey city. So if you're able to bring it to a new city, like let's say, I'm not going to name a city, but just ones like Quebec or maybe Hartford, maybe like Houston, even Hamilton, you'll get an interested fan base and you'll get people who want to be in the building. But on the way out, you need to get rid of the main problem, which is the ownership. So you're going to need to sell the team to somebody who wants to move it. And I think that's something the NHL needs to look at. It's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen while the pandemic's still around because there's no money for that stuff. But I think it will happen eventually. If I was to put a year on it, I think you're looking at by like 2026 that the Arizona Coyotes might become the Hamilton, Arizona Bulldogs or something. I don't know.
What's the question, Matt?
Should the Coyotes leave Arizona?
Right. So that's where Josh comes in and says that, I mean, if the management had it their way, I'm sure they maybe wouldn't want to move, the current management, right?
Current management wouldn't want to move. That's why
So the problem is here with the Arizona Coyotes, especially after that article that came out, is the management and how things are run on an operational level. And that always trickles down, especially to the chemistry, and the fans see that. And that's what's been happening right now, is that they just can't draw a reasonable revenue amount of money to keep a sustainable team here. They have some decent players that would draw, attention from a market like maybe up here in Canada, where Canadians care a lot about hockey. In terms of Houston, I guess the question is, should they relocate? I do believe that they should relocate for the betterment of the NHL and moving forward for branding. I think there's a lot of people that are really upset that teams got discontinued, like the Quebec Nordiques and Hartford or whatever. The
California
Whalers,
Golden Seals.
And even California could potentially take in another hockey team.
Toronto could add 3 more teams, maybe.
Right.
That's
so
dying
I think
at my Golden Seals.
Going off of what I said once.
Sorry, that was funny. I didn't see that.
Canadians generally, I don't know if they have more of a passion for hockey, but if you can compare any city that would be allowed to host a team, NHL team, compared to Arizona, I think I think a team down to like a city down to like Stratford, Ontario would be more passionate about
people would
Arizona.
drive for it.
No, dude, you know what the problem is though?
Like, I'm not saying that it's going to be located in Stratford. I'm just saying Canadian culture of hockey will get your car.
I just think we want to grow the game, correct? So why the fuck would putting another team in Canada do that? People in Canada already like it. I think you need to go to big places, big American cities where we don't have teams yet, like Houston. Because I think I actually wrote down, Houston's the 5th largest city in terms of population. And it's in Texas where they only have 1 team. So I just think you get a team in Houston, it will be huge. There's a lot of money in Houston, international travel. It's a very nice place to visit. So I think Houston's good because you need to build it down south. Like, you look at the border, like I saw a map of like where all the teams are placed. There's not a lot of teams in the Midwest. So a lot of people say Kansas City because you see what's happening with the Chiefs. Kansas City wants a hockey team. I heard they have a stadium, which is pretty cool. And Houston. So I don't think we should go to Quebec or another team in the Ontario GTA. So I would personally move it to Houston, and just going to like Ottawa Arizona, Florida. Why do all these teams build their buildings where people can't get to? Like, I don't understand.
Cheap land.
No, but don't you think that's a problem? Like, why do they build the rinks there? Like, I don't get it.
It's cheap land.
Yeah.
Teams
But,
don't
like,
make a lot of money.
If you're going to invest in a hockey team and build a building, you're going to want to use it for the next, like, what, forever? Like, 100 years. So, like, why would it?
No, those buildings have what, like a 25-year lifespan?
No, but I'm saying the goal when you're building an arena like that, a hockey rink, you could use it for concerts, like whatever you want, is for it to become like the next Madison Square Garden or the next Staples Center. Or you look at what we had with the Scotiabank Arena and stuff. So, like, I don't understand why these teams invest so poorly in their plan. Because if it's not a good market to begin with, like Arizona is, you putting the building in a bad location is so bad. And I actually read an article about Vegas and Seattle that it took them a little longer to get teams there because they wanted the buildings in prime locations. So I just think a lot of that's buildings. And when we look at the GTA, this is kind of always a fun debate to get into. But people say get one in Hamilton, get one in there. It's like I don't like there'd be so much of a second fiddle to the Leafs. Like, I don't see the point. So Josh, can you explain? Like, I don't really maybe I don't just get it. Like, you could take it away.
I think Hamilton's far enough away from Toronto where they wouldn't be the second fiddle.
Yeah, they would though.
I don't think they would, and even if they were the second fiddle, they would be a huge second fiddle, right? Like that people would go. Like if you build one in Hamilton, you're getting people driving in from London. You're going to get people who are driving from Milton. You're going to get.
But
people
dude, the problem is that's not enough. Like, you look at all the cities. No, you look at all the cities that are big Canadian teams. It's Toronto, Montreal. It's places that are known internationally where people go visit.
Hamilton has a bigger population than Winnipeg.
No, but Winnipeg is different because it's in a province by itself. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Hamilton's
so, like,
in a province.
No, but Hamilton's in the same province as Toronto, which is what I'm saying.
So is Ottawa.
No one visits Hamilton. But Ottawa's the capital, so you have a lot of government functions and stuff.
People do, like, they host the
No one visits Hamilton, Josh. Don't lie.
They do.
No, they don't.
For the Ticats and stuff.
Okay,
not as much as they would visit Toronto, but no one fucking visits Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's true. If Winnipeg can house a team, Hamilton can definitely house a team. Like,
people visit Hamilton over Ottawa on
that's not true.
Moment's notice just due to the location. It's close to Toronto. It's close to the border in Buffalo. It's close to like a bunch of these metropolis cities like Windsor, even Brantford, Brampton. Sure, that's near Toronto, but there's a lot of people looking for Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Grimsby. They could associate with a team in Hamilton 100%.
You're also looking at
you can't. It's an NHL team though. It's different than just having an OHL team. It is.
Because the fans.
You're talking billions and you're talking millions. It's different.
What do you mean billions?
Like you have a billion dollar competitor, an international brand like the Toronto Maple Leafs. You can't just build a sideshow 100 miles away or whatever it be. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
And it would take time for the Hamilton team to get.
No, but I'm just saying, why would you relocate that time when you already have things that are sure thing, like Houston, like Arizona? Like, there's not enough.
I would argue that Hamilton or another place in Canada is a better lock for success than those places are.
But that's so biased. Like, you really think people are going to want to be free agents and sign in Hamilton over Houston?
Oh my fuck.
Yeah, because you can live in Toronto.
Dude, but you wouldn't live in Toronto.
Yeah, you would.
No, you wouldn't.
Okay, next debate question.
Okay, next debate question, because Josh is wrong.
No, I wouldn't.
Next debate question.
So, wait, what'd you say?
No, don't worry about it.
Okay,
next
yeah,
question.
that's what I thought. Okay, anyway, so the Buffalo Sabres have been struggling since 2000 and probably 15.
They should relocate to Hamilton.
Yeah, you're very funny. But anyways, so Jack Eichel has been frustrated again, which is kind of funny. So they're sitting at the bottom of the division. They're 5-8-2, and a lot of people are saying Jack Eichel might look for a trade in the offseason. Elliot Friedman wrote about it. I saw it in the New York Times, and the two teams that are being discussed are the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. So the question is, will Jack Eichel get traded? And is it best for Buffalo? Take the question wherever you want. What do you think about Jack Eichel?
I would say, let me go. I would say, based off of what you provided there, Matt, LA would be a great option because they need someone who can carry
a franchise.
A mature, I can't say the torch from a young nature, but he's a young, mature individual. He'll be 24, 25 or whatever when he starts getting into his prime outside of Buffalo. But I don't think that I see anything successful for him in terms of team success in Buffalo. With the Rangers, it's kind of it's a crazy situation because I feel like there's almost not enough puck to share when you get to the Rangers and you get Eichel, and you'd have to give up someone like formidable. I don't know if that's Zibanejad, Kako, who knows, Lafreniere. I'm just talking, and I just
some of those
like,
people, yeah.
and I feel like you're not giving that team is really close to being really close. I would say the Rangers already. Sure, I mean, I could think all the teams on the coast, LA, San Jose, Anaheim, could all make good cases for a guy like Jack Eichel.
Yeah, I don't think Eichel's the guy to move in Buffalo. I think Taylor Hall's the first one to go because he's only on a 1-year deal, and
both of them will go. Fuck it.
That's what I said.
Yeah, Eichel's locked up for what, 5 more years?
A long time. I
Long
want to
time.
say
So
5 more years.
Buffalo's going to want to keep him. They won't trade him unless he asks out, which he hasn't done yet. So I don't think that's even on their mind to trade him. I think Taylor Hall is the one that leaves. The trade deadline's in 7 weeks. He'll definitely won't be a Sabre anymore because they're going to want to get something back for him because there's no way he's re-signing there. So I don't think Eichel's going anywhere right now. If he was to get traded, I think you're looking at maybe a team like Montreal or maybe Arizona.
Yeah, sorry. I should have added more context. This is actually kind of important. The reason this is rumbling, because after this year, he has 1 more season left, and then there's no move kicks in. So a lot of the destinations, you wouldn't have as much of traction, because he could basically say, I'm only waiving to go to this team.
He's in Buffalo. The only place he wouldn't want to be traded to is Winnipeg.
That's true. But you know what I'm trying to say, Josh. It
Yeah.
does limit your chances. Maybe I think it's not him saying, I won't go here. It's more send me, you know what I mean? Like when some athletes say, just send me there. So what I was thinking, if I'm Buffalo, you don't have a lot of things going for you. And I was looking at their UFAs. They're like Eric Stahl. They were Jake McCabe, which is one, but he just got hurt for the whole season. Colin Miller. So I don't really.
Josh, we were just talking about. Sorry, Matt. We were talking about this Jake McCabe injury over some Call of Duty, and it sounded like Jake McCabe broke his entire body in one play, and it's very unfortunate because he suffered a lot of injuries right there, and that's not something that you want to, young hockey player wants to see.
Dirty player though.
Yeah, he's a dirty player.
He's the guy that ruined Line A. I do actually remember that. He kind of anyway. Matt, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's right. I actually wanted Jake McCabe and the Leafs just to get another dirty hockey player. Him and Bogosian would be fun. Yeah, but anyways.
Oh.
No, yeah, just finishing on the Buffalo. I would just use Eichel and Hall to build around Dylan Cousins. Who they just
Darlene.
pick? Oh, yeah, Darlene and Jack
Casey
Quinn.
Middlestat.
So I would look at that core, and I would trade Eichel and Hall to get more stuff for that core. So that's what I personally would do. So I would say I would want to trade Jack Eichel.
Sabres fans would be through the wall. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a little bit similar to having if Jack Eichel said trust the process, and then all of a sudden he got traded. It was like, okay, I feel bad for the fans that were trusting that process because now they have to go through a whole new one.
Well, they're going to go through a new process regardless. No offense to them.
I agree. I don't know. I don't feel like it's fair to be. I would say it's just wasting Jack Eichel's career at this point.
Exactly. So, but if you guys are Jack Eichel, what is your top 3 teams? I'll start. I would say maybe I'll go Tampa, Vegas, LA, and maybe New York. So those are my 3.
Tampa and Vegas are every destination.
That's why I'm saying. I just think it's such a nice place to live. So, Josh, if you had to name a couple teams, what teams would you say?
Am I taking the cap into consideration or no?
You're Jack Eichel.
You couldn't go in and fit in Toronto, let's say.
No, but I'm just saying you're Jack Eichel. You're no move kicked in. They ask you for your 3-team list, your top 3 teams. You're thinking about
you're going for money.
Whatever.
You're going for money and a better team than Buffalo.
All right. Well, I'd want to go to Toronto. I'd want to go to Vegas, and I'd want to go to probably LA.
Brandon, your thoughts?
So I like the three Carolina. Carolina could be a good option. Wow. But I like the 3 California options so far. However, if you think about it,
him and Trevor Zegras would be sick together, both coming out of the U.S. program
in Montreal. I could see that happening in Montreal, but that's to something that Mark Bergevin. It's something that you have to see through. Montreal has the aspects, and by the time the prospects, and by the time this could be ready to happen by the end of this season, start of next season, over the summer, those players will have a season under their belt with some probably good statistics in this Canadian division, like Suzuki. You have a guy who's not even being played. Have you guys remember Ryan Paling? That guy had a lot of promise. He got a hat trick in his first game, and I saw that live. but they have
they have pieces. You're right. Romanov, Caulfield.
Yeah, exactly. Romanov as well. And they'll have some veteran players to move as well that are really a little bit too expensive. But that's just me. I think that he could land up in Montreal. He could very well end up on San Jose or LA as well. Anaheim would be great. Happy to see Trevor Zegras not bored playing hockey anymore. So he's up with the NHL team for now.
Yep.
And the last question.
Sorry, we got a little bit of breaking news. Elliot Friedman is reporting that Toronto has inquired about Taylor Hall.
Woo!
Okay, so this is a tease, and we're talking about that next show. Okay. So just to recap on,
when I think Taylor Hall is a Leaf. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all agree. I think we all agree for the Jack Eichel, Taylor Hall. If you ship him out, you're Buffalo. You try to get as much young prospects.
$10 million a year.
First round picks. What?
Isn't Hall 9 or 10 million this year?
Hall makes $8 million, but the thought is Buffalo's going to retain half. So you get Taylor Hall for just $4 million. And if you're the Leafs,
let's go.
If you're the Leafs,
for a deep Taylor Hall run.
If you're the Leafs, you send a contract back like Kerfoot. But anyways, the last question, and this isn't really a question, it's more of a topic situation, is Sidney Crosby got his 1,000th game, and I think McDavid got his 500th game or 500th point or something.
So
it's kind of everything. Yeah. So anyways,
what happened was Crosby played his 1,000th game, and McDavid hit his 500th point on the same game that Crosby hit his 500th point.
Yeah. So you have a lot of people comparing legacies, all that stuff.
Sure.
I think Cassie Campbell tweeted, who I actually like her. She does really good stuff for Sportsnet. Tweeted, Austin Matthews is a better complete player than Connor McDavid. And I think you guys you didn't talk about it, but you alluded to Matthews has a shot that McDavid doesn't. So we kind of talked about this already.
Yeah, remember we went on that. That was months ago.
McDavid doesn't shoot.
No, but the question is Matthews better than McDavid? Is McDavid going to have a better career than Crosby?
Right.
So
let me start with this.
All of that, Brandon, you go first. What do you think of all that?
In terms of points and overall legacy, I think that there's no one who's impacted the creativeness of the game of hockey. And you see moves and you see changes of speed that McDavid does right now that impacts the way that little kids and professionals even train. And so I think that that's a huge impact enough. In terms of overall game, both magnificent, skilled players. McDavid is more of a pass first guy. He's been learning to do the shoot first. I can give him that credit. But Matthews has been a scorer first and a pass second, and the passes are very, very deceptive. They're good passes. He always makes them look like you're shooting. But in terms of this overall play, I remember like 2 years ago, even as a rookie year, this guy's been getting Selke nominations, maybe not even nominations, but just conversations, talk. I think that his overall defensive game in the zone, sure, he's maybe not the most quick-footed. There's no way his agility compares to McDavid. He has great sense. I think that I've never heard McDavid involved in a Selke as much as Matthews has been since he came into the league. Sure, McDavid blows him out of the water with points overall since he's entered the league, but Matthews has had some injury cutoffs. I think that when it's all said and done, it might come down to who has a ring and who doesn't, or who has the most rings.
Josh, what do you think?
I don't think you can say one player is better than the other. I think McDavid. I don't think you can. Because they bring different things.
Is Selke the defensive player, offensive player of the year?
It's Selke's defensive player, yeah. It's supposed to be.
Defensive player of the year.
Yeah. Josh, continue.
No, it's more of a two-way player award.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but it's like McDavid does things that no other hockey player can do, but so does Matthews. Like, who goes on an 18-for-18 goal scoring streak? And it seems like Matthews is constantly evolving, always adding new things to his arsenal, and McDavid just keeps improving on what he has. So he's making his tools better. Like he just seems to come back and look faster, look sharper on his turns. And like we said, if McDavid can develop a shot like Matthews does, which he might have been trying to do this offseason because they were working together, then that conversation could probably heat up that McDavid is the better scorer. But right now, I would say McDavid is the better overall skill-wise guy. But when it comes to scoring, I don't think anybody's touching Matthews at the moment.
Goal scoring, you mean? Not just like points. Okay,
not just points. No, goal scoring.
So just kind of what I think. I think this is going to be a hot take, but I think it's kind of hard because I think if you put Matthews in McDavid's situation, he wouldn't excel as much as he is in Toronto because of Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and all the weapons we got. But I think when it's all said and done, maybe not from a skills perspective, but I think Austin Matthews is going to have a better career than Connor McDavid.
Oh, so do I, because he's going to score more goals.
Exactly. Not even that. I just think he's in a better position to win.
I said that because I think he had the better chance of a ring as well.
Yeah. But just and
At
I
this
also
very
think
day.
something Matthews did that's a lot smarter is he didn't lock himself into any situation. Like you saw Connor McDavid take an 8-year contract, which I think he would be 21 to 29. He has a contract with Edmonton. So that's like the majority of your prime. That's 8 years to win a ring, plus the 3 on your entry level. So I think Matthews is smarter with the 5-year contract. I think it's better. You maximize your value. But just to kind of throw Crosby in there, and from a skills perspective, Crosby's backhand is disgusting. You see Crosby winning faceoffs, his hand-eye, his passing. So I know we talk
about Crosby. What?
No, because this is how we started, because his
style of
this game and stuff. So my point, just when you're comparing legacies, as good as McDavid and Matthews are, Crosby is like a combination of both of them, which is even kind of crazy when you think about it, when you look at the gold medals and the rings. And I think when Crosby was their age, he already had a gold medal, the golden goal, a Stanley Cup, and 2 MVPs. So I don't really think there's a comparison when you look at that perspective. So, it's true.
He's been in the league longer.
No, I said at the same age as them.
No, he didn't have the golden goal wasn't when he was 24.
Yeah, he was younger, Josh. It was 2010. He came in the league in 05. He was 18 in 05. He was 23 when he scored the golden goal, and he won the cup the year before.
Sorry, for some reason there, I had a blank moment where I thought the golden goal was in 2014.
It happens. Yeah, but anyway, so basically, I just think it's kind of cool, the comparisons, but I would have a hot take and say Austin Matthews is more complete than Connor McDavid, but McDavid gets so much more points that doesn't really matter. But this year's MVP should be and will be Austin Matthews.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's wrap it up. I don't know if Brandon will join us for that since he's turned his...
Sorry, these elementary school parents think that my house driveway is a parking spot for the school nearby, and I had to yell out the window that this is not. If you want to next time, it's $20. Anyway.
Who's winning the MVP this year, Matthews or McDavid, Brandon?
Wow.
Taylor Hall.
They would have to relate it back to... Okay, they can't relate it. It's Taylor Hall. But a culmination of points. I don't see McDavid not getting more points. I see Matthews getting 45 goals plus, and I think goals will be more important. Hopefully, they use that as the determining factor.
Would you be upset? Would you be upset
Matthews?
Would you be upset if Matthews won the Rocket but McDavid won the MVP?
I'd be pissed.
Oh, all right.
I just think if you score 18,
well, you can't have him. Oh wait, did McDavid have them both last year, or was that Draisaitl?
McDavid's never won a Rocket. No, Ovi's won the Rocket the last 20 years. Yeah, that's Ovi's trophy. But yeah, I think just when you look at Matthews and the goal scoring, and I think this MVP will be so cool because both guys played each other 8 times. Yeah. So I think going forward, I think the Edmonton-Toronto matchups are going to be really fun. They're going to be amazing. So I do have Austin Matthews as the MVP this year. Josh, you guys the same thing?
If it's down to those two, yeah, I'll take Matthews. But I think we also got to remember there's 22 other teams outside of the North Division.
Although when you could give us 10 options, I'd still choose Matthews. But sorry, joke.
But Josh, who else? Like when you look at the top 10 in scoring, they're all the Canadian guys. So it's not like we're doing this.
Let me get back
I know Patrick Kane is up there. I heard Patrick Kane's doing really good. I saw some of his plays. But I think in terms of defensemen, like I don't really see like maybe you could always give it to Hedman, but I'm talking about Matthews and McDavid are doing historic stuff. Yeah. That's why you give them the MVP. Not because they're in the Canadian division and we're all watching that. I think they're just that good.
Especially if Toronto ends up as the top 3 teams in the league, that will enhance and you see Edmonton in 10th, 11th place. It should go to Matthews. It should be added to his resume.
Yeah, I'll just wrap it up with this. The MVP will go to whoever has the hottest last month of the season because that's usually what happens.
So Dylan Cousins for MVP.
All right, fair enough. And Taylor Hall is going to the Leafs. So thanks for listening today. We went a lot longer than we thought we were going to. Make sure you follow us.
Number 9 retired by the Leafs?
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm not going to buy a number 9 Taylor Hall jersey anymore. Anyway.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Orion Sportscast, on Twitter at the same thing. Follow us personally. The links for that will be in our bios. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and we will see you soon. Wow.